When we first read Chapter 8, I was very interested in the learning strategy developed by John Bransford and Barry Stein that uses the acronym IDEAL. I thought it was a great way to help my students in 7th grade math to work through the performance tasks that we often do. The steps are very logical and they offer a remarkable way to move through a problem so that the chances for success are greatly increased. After doing some more research on this topic, I decided it would be something I'd like to introduce to my students, so I made a graphic so that I could use it to help them remember the steps. The steps are not even just used in education, even like life coaches use them to help people solve problems in everyday life. I plan to discuss each step with my students, explaining what each letter in the acronym stands for, what the picture made me think of, and then trying to help them connect those things in their own minds. The first letter I stands for identify problems and opportunities. I chose a clip art of a man looking under the hood of his obviously broken down car because, just like a car, when you have a word problem, you must first identify what the problem is, what needs to be solved, before you can begin to solve it. The text states on page 206 that the first step is to identify the goal and figure out how to proceed. It seems like this is the biggest hurdle for students to overcome, and oftentimes they just give up on a problem before they even start because they don't even know what it's asking. So the second step after identifying the problem is represented by the letter D for defining the goal. This is a natural progression in that once we have identified the issue at hand, then it's much easier to be clear about what we need to accomplish. I chose the clip art of a dartboard where clearly the goal is to land the dart in the center. Hopefully this will help the students remember this step where it's so important to be certain what the endpoint should be. The third letter, E, stands for explore possible strategies. In this step, students should take a moment to brainstorm different ways that they might solve the problem, listing to themselves or to each other all their ideas based on the knowledge that they already have. And I chose the clip art of a scuba diver exploring the ocean floor because, just like the deep sea, there are usually some things involved in a performance task that seem really foreign to the student, but after exploring these things, it's generally not as foreign as they first thought. Sometimes students jump straight from figuring out what the problem is asking to writing down numbers and starting the math. And this step kind of forces them to develop some strategies that might work before they start the math, hopefully reducing those mistakes that are made from hurrying through. The fourth letter of the strategy is A, which stands for anticipate outcomes and act. A month or so ago, my mentor suggested to me that I have my students estimate what they thought a practical answer to the problem might be. For instance, if the problem is asking like how much money a person makes after working 17 hours at say $9 an hour, it would not make sense that we would have a negative number like negative 12 or a fraction like 1/9 as an answer. And I started doing that, and it's really helped my students to realize if they got an answer like that they've made a mistake. So when I was reading about this strategy, I realized that my mentor had been suggesting this step of anticipating the outcome. And the A also represents ACT, which is the step where the student actually does the work to solve the problem. I chose the clip art of the two people working to put the puzzle pieces together. This reminded me of looking at the picture of what a puzzle will eventually look like while you're working to put it together. And this allows you to do the work while keeping the end in sight. The final letter L stands for look back and learn, and this is the step where students reflect on what they've done and how it worked out. The point of constructivist strategies is to have students actually work through a problem, experiencing it rather than just hearing a lecture on it in order to solve it, because true learning requires experience. In this step, students look back at what they've done so that they can connect it to prior learning and hopefully remember it so they can connect it to future learning. The clip art of the student looking through a magnifying glass helps me recall looking back, so that's where I chose that. I did my last project on shaping, and it has been an amazing help in my classes. So I'm looking forward to introducing this concept, and if it goes half as well as the last, I'll be delighted. All the clip art in this graphic came from Microsoft's free clip art collection, so anyone can feel free to use it. Thanks.